All right, who wants to start?
Well, Drew, you're a routine guy. What's your routine now?
I can't really say I have one, other than I still get up as early as I can, get my 2 cups of coffee, try to get a bunch of work done before the kids get up, be part of the get ready for school process, and then just keep myself busy until they get home, and then it becomes coaching, trying to help coach football, basketball, and baseball, and just being involved in the kids' lives and having fun as a family.
Are you having to tell the mind that there's no football to do reflexively?
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, obviously, this would be a big training time. Mid-April, getting ready for the start of off season. So yeah, there would definitely be a big focus on training and throwing and that kind of thing. This has given me a chance to get into some other things that I otherwise wouldn't be doing. Mountain biking, e-foiling, some stuff that's probably would not be in my contract, but it's been fun to try some of that other stuff.
Drew, how much do you think you'll miss it?
Oh, I know I'll miss it, and honestly, it's a big reason why I took advantage of the opportunity to sign with NBC and be a broadcaster for Notre Dame games with Mike Tirico and do the in-studio work for Football Night in America, is to stay connected with the game, to stay connected with the coaches and the players and all those relationships that I've been able to build, throughout my career, but also a way to maybe just fill that void that I know will come by not being a player anymore. I'm like I said, I'm excited for the next chapter. I'm excited for this next opportunity. But yet, at the same time, I do recognize that there will be challenges. And there'll be kind of a range of emotions, especially as we get close to football season, when you start getting that itch and that excitement, knowing that guys are going back to work and starting to prepare for another season, and you're not a part of it as a player anymore.
As a follow-up, do you feel like are you confident that you left at the right time?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
You got the timing.
No, yeah, I am. I mean, listen, there's always that balance, and I mean, we could sit here and talk for hours about. My philosophy has always been that as long as I was having fun, able to stay healthy, and play at a high level, that I would play. And at the same time, there's also that balance of family, and my son Balin is going to be in 7th grade next year, and you begin to think about those other priorities in your life, and my time with my wife and my family is so valuable and so important, and I know it's finite from the perspective of once they leave the roost, that's there's only this finite amount of time that you have them in the house, and so family was a big part of that, and also just feeling like it was time. I was ready to move on. I was ready for the next chapter in my life.
What are some of you mentioned mountain biking, coaching kids, are there things
Yeah.
you've done that you would not have done in a previous spring that you've had the
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's every decision I've made over the last 20 years is what puts me in the best position to succeed as an NFL quarterback. And so that was my training, that was my recovery, that was what I can and can't do in regards to the risks that I can take or not take. Just knowing that I had a responsibility to my team and the organization to be their quarterback and be durable and be present and be around and just take care of that responsibility. That was priority number one. And even with your family, I mean, literally when training camp starts, that was my wife saying goodbye and realizing that this is now a 7-month commitment that's coming up where we don't get a chance to see you very much, and you don't get to see the kids very much, and it's the reality of our job, and that's players and probably even more so for coaches during the season. So there are sacrifices that come along with that.
Was there anything else on that sort of bucket list that you did right away?
Snow skiing. I went snow skiing with the kids. I haven't been snow skiing in 25 years. Last time I was 17 years old, and then I hurt my knee playing football in high school that year, and so I missed that time to ski. And then I got a scholarship to Purdue, and I was like, well, I don't want to ski anymore because I don't want to take the chance of doing something stupid. And then that just became the theme for the next 25 years as a football player. And again, that was one of those decisions that I had to make as, hey, is this a risk that I'm willing to take because my priority is football right now?
You put on your analyst hat and break down Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill as
Yeah,
potential
listen,
starting
I'm excited for both those guys. I think both those guys are at a point in their career where they really have a great opportunity to establish themselves. And obviously Jameis being in a situation where he was a starter for 5 years in Tampa, then comes over and has a chance to learn last year. You know, unfortunately they didn't get a preseason last year. That would have been, I think, valuable for both of them, just in this offense and in this system. But regardless, both those guys, when they had their opportunity this last year, did a great job. And so only time will tell, but I know this, when you have those two type of guys in the locker room, not only what they bring from their skill set, but they're really great leaders. They set the example by the way that they work and by the way that they prepare. They're loved by their teammates, and I'm excited to see those guys and however this competition plays out.
Was there anything about Jameis behind the scenes that impressed you or that you learned about him?
The guy loves football. Jameis loves football. I mean, he's really a football junkie, and you know, he when you're a starter, or if you have your experience as a starter in the NFL, you typically kind of have your own routine. And so, you know, Jameis had his routine, and he was picking my brain constantly on, hey, what I did and why I did it, and you know, coming over to me after his rep during practice, and hey, what did you see there? How are you reading that play? And just like constant communication. I think constantly trying to kind of better himself and improve and continue to build on his own skill set. And same thing with Teddy Bridgewater when he was here. You know, he was a starter and kind of had his own routine, and yet at the same time, just kind of pick and choosing the things that work for them. And I could not have been more impressed with Jameis, honestly, as a teammate, as a guy in the locker room who I think everybody they admired his love and passion for the game and the way he worked at it, and certainly his desire to be a great player is there, and that's most important.
Did you see his reaction, his most emotional reaction?
Yeah.
He asked him about you?
Yeah, I did. Listen, you know, that stuff's humbling because I think a huge part of this game and what I'll miss about this game is the relationships that you have in the locker room, and the guys that you get to wake up and see every day. And while it is a grind, man, there's those moments where you just you look back and you just cherish those memories, and I think while you're in the moment, you don't necessarily have a chance to really appreciate it until you're done. You take a step back, and then when you see a guy express his appreciation that way, it's humbling. It's humbling. Yeah, I did. I mean, listen, this has been something that's been on my radar for the last few years. It's not like you just wake up one day and say, yeah, I think I'm going to retire. These have been conversations in my house with my wife and with my mentors, and I think it's like once you make the decision that you're going, man, you're all in, right? And then you need that time after every season just to unwind and recharge, and then you reassess, you reevaluate. But I went through this process last year, I'd say pretty seriously, and decided to come back in my mind for one more, make one more run at it, and know that if I pour every ounce that I had into it, and at the end of the day I can look back and say that I gave it everything I had, and now it's ready for the next chapter.
Drew, you spent a long amount of time with your family on the field after the last game.
Yeah.
What was going through your mind there? What did that mean to you?
Well, yeah, listen, I knew that was it. Like I said, going into this season, I told myself this would be it. And so, this year with COVID was tough because obviously we didn't have that same interaction with the fans like we normally would in the Superdome. And literally after every home game for the last 4 or 5 years, we've almost created this tradition where all the guys are bringing their kids down on the field. And I'd say our team was pretty unique from the perspective that we had a lot of veteran guys, and we'd all watched our families grow over the years. And so look at the Morsteads with 4 kids and Josh Hill with 4 kids, and so many other families that, DeMario Davis and others where, these moments after the game were almost just as special as the moments throughout the week in the locker room and on the road trips and in the games themselves. That's where the real personal connections would take place as well. And so we missed that this year, and I felt like, doggone it, my kids are going to get an opportunity to do this one last time. We're going to get out there and we're going to make them shut the lights out on us, which they did about midnight.
And you had a number of injuries this year. We heard about a plantar fascia and a labrum. I mean, how serious were these things, and how limited were you this season?
There was, I mean, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I only felt 100. I only really felt good in one game. From the perspective of like I had all the tools in my toolbox. So, you know, is limited the word? Is like I had a lot of limitations throughout the season as to what I could and couldn't do, and I recognize that, and that's really hard for a competitor. That's really hard when you know what you should be able to do and yet you can't because of various injuries or things that are taking place with your body, you know. And you know, some of those things are just kind of freak things, like, you know, tear of plantar fascia, you get, you know, damage in the shoulder, you get the broken ribs, right, the punctured lung, you get all this stuff that's going on, this abdominal thing that I was dealing with for pretty much most of the season, that as a quarterback, everything you do is rotation, and when you can't rotate the way that you want, you all of a sudden begin to accommodate in ways, and everything for you kind of narrows, because it's like, well, I know I can't make that throw, I can't make that throw, so what's now in my toolbox? And it's harder to play the game that way. It is. And yet, you got to find a way still to get it done. And I felt like we did that, but it was difficult.
How much of that went into your decision?
Well, I think it just reinforced the fact that that stuff doesn't get any easier. You know, the older you get. And was this year a bit of an aberration when it comes to that kind of thing? Yeah, I mean, God willing, I was able to make it through a 20-year NFL career with a lot of things, but missing very few games, right? I mean, I'd missed one game from injury up until 2 years ago. So in 18 years, I missed one game. And that was that freak shoulder thing 5 years ago that I still am baffled. I don't know what happened there, but you know, you get the thumb, hit it on Aaron Donald's hand, kind of a freak thing, right? And then this year, the broken ribs and punctured lung, I mean, they're going to hold you out for something like that. But I still consider myself extremely blessed to have missed so little time in 20 years.
Which game did you say you felt the best? You said
Detroit.
You missed one game.
Detroit was the only game I felt like I had all the tools. That was it.
One or two more?
I was going to add, since we talked about Jameis, I was going to talk about Taysom. The fact that now he gets to focus all his attention on just being a quarterback instead of, you know, being spread out in different roles. Do you think that will probably benefit him the most when they go into this competition with Jameis this training camp?
You know, Taysom's such a weapon because when he's on the field, I mean, think about the perspective of a defensive coordinator. Taysom Hill's on the field. Well, that still doesn't give us a lot of information other than he's going to be an integral part of the play, but is he going to line up at tight end? Is he going to line up at receiver? Is he going to line up in the backfield as a quarterback? Or maybe they're pitching it to him on 3rd and short or something, you know? So just this role that he plays and the weapon that he is and the matchup problem that he creates for the opposing defense, he's such a unique player, one of the most unique players I've ever been around from the perspective of what he can do and the value that he brings to a team. And listen, if someone would invest an offense in him, I mean, listen, just like I'd say the Baltimore Ravens have invested in offense in Lamar Jackson, right? He has got such a unique skill set, one that does not exist. I mean, he's kind of a once-in-a-generation type of player from that perspective, talking about Lamar Jackson. But man, if you commit to his skill set and the things that he does well, then great things can happen, right? And I believe Taysom Hill is that type of player.
Do you think Sean would be able to do that?
If there's anybody who can do it, it's Sean.
Yeah.
You know, at the same time, you've got this caliber player in Jameis who I think is kind of ready to explode back on the scene with this knowledge and wisdom that he's been able to derive here over the last year, coupled with his experience already as a starting quarterback. You know, so you've got both these guys, and listen, that therein lies the challenge of the situation, right? Is that I think whoever you commit to, that becomes a system that you build around the player. Just when I first got to New Orleans Saints, the conversations with Sean were, we're putting you in the best position to succeed, and we're building this offense around your strengths and your skill set. That's what the great coaches do.
So you don't feel like we saw a full Taysom in that 4-game sample since it really wasn't
Hinckley, Taylor.
This is his first 4 starts in the NFL, right? And so you already have an offense and a system in place. You can't just make wholesale changes, you know what I'm saying? And so however this plays out, at the end of the day, if you're making the commitment to a guy, you build the system around that guy.
Are you doing anything to prepare for broadcasting?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
I've already spent a good amount of time with the NBC team. So producer Mike Tirico, others that will be a part of the team, both on the broadcasting side for Notre Dame football home games and also with Football Night in America. And studying tape, learning the disciplines that go with each of those, broadcasting and in studio, because you really do use different muscles, and it's really they're 2 different animals. And so for me, it's an opportunity to really learn a great skill set with both. I think the biggest challenge is probably going to be learning the college game. I've been obviously just watching college on Saturday nights, on the road before games. But learning the college football environment and learning a lot about the coaches and the players and the systems, and obviously studying Notre Dame football quite a bit. But then also being very much in tune to what's happening with the NFL, because that's what the hour and 12-minute show is devoted to. With Football Night in America every Sunday night. So it'll be fun. It'll definitely be an adjustment and be a challenge, but a challenge I'm looking forward to.